Our next guest is brought to you by the Arnold Palmer designed Whistler Golf Club, now open for the 2024 season and playing to rave reviews early. Tee times for anytime during the 2024 season can be booked right now online. And if you have a group of 12 or more, you, the group organizer, plays for free. For more information or to book online, visit whistlergolf.com. I'm afraid Jeff Paterson is going to have to wait a little while longer before he gets into the full swing of things on the golf course because, well, he's got some hockey to cover and may well have a couple more weeks of hockey to cover at minimum. Should the Canucks win Saturday or Monday if necessary, our Canucks reporter, the host of Rink Wide Vancouver, joins us after a thrilling Game 5 victory for the home team. Jeff, how are you? What do you make of the game last night?
Well, I was thinking that when I came on with you guys after the stirring Game 1 comeback, and we talked about the moments that the Canucks have provided their fan base already in these playoffs. And since then, okay, there's been an overtime game, and now there's been 2 final minute, basically buzzer beaters in the last 2 games of the series, and last night's went the Canucks' way. So it just on a nightly basis, the theater, the drama has been off the charts good. That much better when the home team, if it's the Canucks and Canuck fans, that much better when they come out on top. And so, look, to be able to push the Oilers to the brink of elimination now, to do it the way that they did, the way they took that game over in the second period, the ice was tilted. The Canucks were playing downhill, but full credit to them. Rick Tocchet challenged them. Guys responded. You know, we're getting into high-stakes situations, and that can be a risky proposition for a head coach to basically throw it back at his players. But the guys that were passengers, I think they recognized it and they responded, and the changes that the coach made, those worked out. He's pretty much had the Midas touch all season long, and again, pushed all the right buttons. It took 59 minutes and change, but they got the result they needed to get this thing to a 3-2 series lead.
Nobody ever expects to be right when they make their pre-series prognostications. But everybody was saying this is going to be a tight series. It's going to go 7 games, yada, yada. Like when you say that, generally you expect a 5-2 win from somebody along the way. To get these 1-goal games, I'm just blown away at the way this series has unrolled. Like, it has been high drama. Maybe not the best hockey games every single night, but my goodness, the end drama and the flair for the dramatic. I mean, it's just fabulous theater, and I think that Canucks fans and Oiler fans are getting quite a treat. And in the case of Canucks fans, Jeff, to wait this long and then to get a series like this, I mean, congratulations, Canuck fans.
The empty net goal is extinct.
Right.
I'm not sure what's happened here now. Part of it's the goals are coming so late, the game winners, but you know, the Game 3 win in Edmonton, the Canucks were up 4-2, and Evan Bouchard scored to make it a backdoor 1-goal game, but still it ends as a 1-goal game, and that's 9 straight games now that have been decided by a single goal. And it you know, the margins are that tight. But at the outset of the series, you know, I think there were a lot of people, and you looked at that ESPN prediction group, you know, people thought the Canucks were going to have to hang on for dear life, and everything was going to have to go right, in the words of Jim Rutherford at the outset of the season. And yet it has been back and forth. There have been some stretches. Obviously, in Game 1, the Oilers got out in front, and the Canucks, full credit to them for clawing all the way back. But really, since then, games have been ridiculously and remarkably tight, and that was the case again on Thursday night at Rogers Arena. So the Canucks are, look, they've shown it all season long. When they're down, they're not afraid. In tight games, they're comfortable. Rick Tocchet has always pleaded with his group to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And I think they're showing that they are absolutely fine with games being tied into the third period, or even if they're trailing, you know, they have this belief that they can come back. And, you know, they did well to tie the game at 1, and then boom, it's 2-1 right away. That could have been pretty deflating, but no, they just cranked up the volume and the temperature in that second period and absolutely went to work. And in some ways, we're unlucky to finish the second period in a 2-2 tie because they generated all the chances in that middle frame.
Blake can speak for himself. I picked the Canucks in 5, and frankly, I'm a little disappointed and surprised it's going to take them at least 6. Jeff, it's our poll question today. How do you see the series ending? Who and in how many games?
I give them every opportunity to go into Edmonton and just punch the Oilers right in the nose. They did it in Game 3. They won all 3 of their games in Nashville. They're not afraid. by this point of the playoffs, big crowds and loud noises, like you're going to get that wherever you go. So it's not any more intimidating going into Rogers Place than it is Rogers Arena. The fact that, a guy like EP40 took a step forward, there's still room to grow, certainly. But if he was one of the passengers, he was pulling on the rope in the right direction last night, and the way that JT Miller has played, I guess I need to see how the Oilers work the matchups at home. Like, they're going to have to find a way to get Connor McDavid away from JT Miller, because give Miller and Carson Soucy and Tyler Myers all the props in the world for the job that they did. The length of those defensemen, keeping McDavid to the outside, off the score sheet. He has 1 point in the last 3 games in this series. Like, it was fair to question some areas of the Oilers game, but I didn't hear anybody questioning Connor McDavid coming into the series. And yet, I don't know about you guys, but I've written a column that's going to be up at Canucks Army here on Friday about, like, this might be the most important game that Connor McDavid has ever played in the National Hockey League. When you think of the stakes, when you think of Leon Draisaitl's got 1 year left on his contract, if they were to bow out to the Canucks of all teams, what does that do? Like, legacies are forged in the playoffs. And quite frankly, Connor McDavid's been remarkably quiet aside from game 2 in the series where he was all world. And, I'll give him the credit for that one, but 6 points in the series, 4 of them came in game 2, and he has just 2 points in the other 4 games. So the Canucks have done a nice job of painting the Oilers into a corner. And I would say they have put all the pressure squarely at the feet of Connor McDavid.
Jeff, we read this stat in the opening block from Paul Paduti. Last night, the Canucks limited McDavid to a 16.5% expected goal share at 5-on-5 per natural stat trick. His lowest in 390 games. You have to go back to a November game in 2019 at Pittsburgh pre-COVID.
Wow.
To find a lower share of expected goals from Connor McDavid.
Now, he hit a crossbar on a first period power play. Game of inches, didn't go his way. But outside of a crossbar early in the hockey game, that is as quiet as I have seen him. And he was on the ice for the 2-2 goal. And then ultimately, he was the closest player. JT Miller on the game winner. And Miller got the bounce, and Connor McDavid was left to wonder, what had gone on and what had gone wrong. And the Canucks said they wanted to make him defend it. I mean, that's the best way to keep the best offensive players in the world at bay, is to make them defend. They don't like to defend. Tires them out. Those are tough shifts. When
is he tired? Is he tired, do you think? Because his speed doesn't look as blinding.
That, he's not 100%. I mean, did the Soucy cross-check or the Zadorov cross-check, does that play into it? But he's playing, and he's playing a lot. I mean, is he playing through something? We don't know. Whatever the case, he has not had the impact. Draisaitl's had a point in every game. Draisaitl has looked unstoppable at times in this series. And again, outside of game 2, you just can't say that about Connor McDavid.
How about the Phil Di Giuseppe story, Jeff?
Yeah. He was having some fun with it post game. Players were having fun with it. Why not? What a 72 hours to have to leave the hockey club in Edmonton and come back to Vancouver. And, he's been honest and upfront about it being a difficult pregnancy. So, just trying to play playoff hockey with sort of that weight on your mind. And, he hadn't played particularly well. So when he came out of the lineup, it didn't feel like a massive loss, but injecting him with the new dad energy, and it's a second child, but he's completed the set. They already had a daughter. Now he's got a son, and he looked like he had been shot out of a cannon. And, it took me back to training camp when he made this team. And, at the time he made the team in the top 6, and nobody really liked that outside of Phil himself, probably. But we said at the time, this isn't ideal if Phil Di Giuseppe's in your top 6, but credit to him. He forced the club's hand because his training camp, his preseason was that strong. So it's in there. It's in there. And Rick Tocchet's always liked and admired his wall work and the board battles. And, the guy plays the right way in the eyes of the head coach. It's just that he's fallen lower in the lineup. There hasn't been much offense from him, but yeah, that was a heck of a shift to get in on the forecheck against the Oilers' top defensive pair. Give Nils Åman some credit as well. And Phil Di Giuseppe with the spinning backhand. Didn't have that on my bingo card, but hey, whatever it takes at this time of the year. And then moments later, he had the off the rush when he tied the game. Like, he would have blown the roof off Rogers Arena if Phil the Thrill had come through with 2 goals, that close together in that second period.
Did you ask him how long the new baby aura lasts? Like, does he have a couple more of those games in him? Just curious.
I don't know. Get out on the road here, maybe get a good night's sleep. The quiet, peace and quiet of a hotel room, and maybe he'll be ready to go. But I can't imagine that Rick Tocchet's going to make any lineup changes based on what we saw. Even Vasily Podkolzin in his limited moments in his Stanley Cup playoff debut did what he tried, tried to be physical. Again, hound the puck, finish check, separate guys, the things that the Canucks had been lacking at other times earlier in this series. So it was nice to see the lower in the lineup guys respond. It was nice to see the higher in the lineup guys obviously come through. The changes for Rick Tocchet. Again, EP40 looked engaged. Elias Lindholm's just had a really impressive playoff run, and that continued again last night. So credit to everybody. That was a full team effort for the Vancouver Canucks, and that's what it's going to take again here, whether it's Game 6 or if they're forced to bring it back to Vancouver for Game 7 on Monday night.
Part of that team effort was the PK, because everybody contributes on the PK, and I had just sort of written in pen, power play goals every game for the Edmonton Oilers. Like, it was a fait accompli.
1 per game, and try and manage it around that. Right?
Yeah, like it was going to happen. It didn't happen. And probably it didn't happen last night.
Right. And on top of that, just 3 shots on goal in 7 minutes and 40 seconds of power play time. We've carved the Canucks power play when it's been passive and on the perimeter. But again, I thought the Canucks amped things up a little more aggressive. You have to be so precise in your reads against that power play. And look, Saturday can be a totally different story, and the Oilers' power play can take over. But, they got the 3 power plays, the first 3 power plays of the game, and for the Canucks to be able to weather that storm, even after they had given up the early goal to Evander Kane, full credit. And, I've listed off a number of individuals and the roles that they've played. Teddy Bluger led the Canucks in shorthanded ice time, so let's make note of the job that Teddy Bluger did. Lindholm, a big part of that. Zadorov, obviously. And getting Carson Soucy back. I mean, they missed him in Game 4. There's no doubt that Noah Juulsen makes the ill-advised read and goes for the big hit. Carson Soucy just, for the most part. Now, look, Carson Soucy also on the second Edmonton goal, he had scored, and I think he smelled blood and the chance to score another one and sort of swooped in there and lost his footing, and Oilers went back the other way. But again, Soucy and Myers in tandem, that pair just being tasked with penalty killing minutes and also trying to match up against Connor McDavid wherever possible. I was glad to hear Rick Tocchet has taken the occasion a couple of times here in the playoffs to single out Tyler Myers. And when you think of where Tyler Myers has been in his run here as a Vancouver Canuck, and it's kind of funny in some ways that the contract is up now, they're not getting paid here based on their contracts in the playoffs. And so at the end of a contract that was never going to be able to be met in terms of value, Tyler Myers playing some of the best hockey of his career. And I'm not sure that I saw that coming into the postseason. But, again, maybe the fact that he hasn't played much playoff hockey here in Vancouver over the years, this is a guy, obviously, with his size, like built for this kind of hockey. We just haven't had the opportunity to see him perform on this stage. But been really, really impressed, and so is the coach, with the play of Tyler Myers.
Tell me what you liked about Elias last night, Jeff.
Just that he dug in. Like, he looked far more engaged, and I'll give him the credit, but I also say, okay, like, how come it was so difficult? Why did it take the coach calling you out? Why did it take pointed questions at the podium? Why did it take the fan base chanting your name just to get a little more engaged? And the fact that he was shooting the puck, and not all shots make it to the net, but there were, I think, 8 shot attempts. Again, like, that tells you he's got the puck on his stick in shooting positions in the offensive zone. The reverse hit, crazy penalty, obviously, but the fact that he was willing to go there and, absolutely levels Warren Fogle. For me, it was the engagement. And I think the engagement will lead to bigger and better things in the offensive production, but also the fact that, look, JT Miller scores the winner and Pettersson's foot able to get the puck to the front of the net. The fact that Elias Pettersson's out there in the final minute of regulation, Rick Tocchet, again, believing in him that there is an opportunity, that it's a new night and maybe a chance for him to come through and contribute offensively. And he did. He played a role on what turned into a game-winning goal. And, big goal, obviously, to put the Canucks on the verge here of advancing. So, I think there was areas, the power play just looked a little more ferocious. He was a part of that. So, again, it wasn't a perfect night, but it was night and day compared to what we've seen through most of the playoffs from Elias Pettersson.
Is that the new Lotto line? You know, when you need something, do you go Elias, and JT Miller instead of Brock Besser?
Well, I mean, it seems crazy to think that Besser would be the odd man out given the playoffs that he's had and his penchant for scoring big goals, but it's so clear that Tocchet trusts Elias Lindholm and just about everything that he has brought to the mix here now that he's a lot closer to being fully healthy. So, you know, it's options, I think, is really all it is. But, you know, again, Brock Besser scores big goals for the Canucks, but he's rounded out his game as well. And he's been part of the group that's been out there late in games trying to protect and preserve leads as well. So I'm not sure what went into the decision, but to me, it was notable that Elias Pettersson was out there on a line when essentially, you know, we talk about the strength of this group and three centers, the way that they've lined up for much of the year. And then it was just throw a blanket, throw all three of them out there and see what happens. And sure enough, against Connor McDavid, they were able to come through in the clutch and give the Canucks the goal that they needed to get out of there with the win last night.
Big goaltending decision here for Chris Knoblauch. Where do you think he'll go? And the other thing, Jeff, is, and we've experienced this here at Rogers Arena in the past, that's going to be a tense building.
Yep.
That's going to be a very tense building. And as we have discussed all series long, the Canucks need to play on the front foot. Boy, if they could get the first goal Saturday and play on the front foot, the totality of pressure and expectation and all of that is going to come heaping down on that Oilers bench.
Yeah, Oilers have opened the scoring in 4 of the 5 games, but that hasn't deterred the Canucks, and the series score indicates that. As for the goaltending decision, you're right. Like, I was thinking about this myself. Like, Calvin Pickard's given them goaltending to win both of the games that he has started here. He got the victory in Game 4, and you know, he was one of the Oilers that came to play in Game 5. And in that second period, he was spectacular. When you think of the saves that he made to keep the Oilers level at 2-2, and even into the third period, not a lot that he could do on the goals themselves. But this is an Oiler team that was the best team in the National Hockey League after Chris Knoblauch took over. Stuart Skinner had asserted himself as their starter unquestionably. You wonder, in a do-or-die game, one game to, you know, get this back to Vancouver for another do-or-die game, do you put it at the feet of your guy that was your number one goaltender? And I think that is a decision that Chris Knoblauch has to make. But guys, we also know that Stuart Skinner's got the penchant for giving up that bad one. And to your point, Matt, like, this is an Oiler team now that basically the margin for error has been eliminated. And I'm not sure that they can sustain just a moldy goal from Stuart Skinner early in that hockey game in terms of the energy in the building and the expectations and all that kind of stuff. And so my gut tells me that you're going to see Calvin Pickard get the start. Just keep doing what he's doing, because I think he's given them the goaltending that they need in this tight series. And then it's on their best players. And it starts with McDavid, but Draisaitl, even, like, let's be honest here, Zach Hyman got 2 in the first game.
Oh my gosh. Empty.
He's been pretty quiet as well.
Yep.
So,
yeah. Like, also, I think Kane has actually made more noise than Hyman of the two wingers. I'm not saying that just because Kane scored, but I mean, honestly, I can't think of many close calls for Hyman outside of the first couple of games. It's been very quiet for him. And again, credit to those big defensemen for the Vancouver Canucks for taking up all that space and just building a wall around their goaltender right now.
Yeah, and so you always hear about the fourth one being the toughest win. And again, there's so much exceptional talent in that Oiler lineup that could rise to the occasion. I don't think anybody would be surprised if McDavid had another one of those big games like Game 2. But one thing to say it's now on him to get out there and perform. But it doesn't just have to be him. Draisaitl, Hyman, Kane, RNH. I mean, we all know the names. There hasn't been enough, obviously, from enough of those guys through 5 games of the series, and that's why the Oilers are in the predicament that they're in. And so, a lot of talk throughout the series about the Canucks playing with house money, and to a degree they are, but now they're one step away from the Western Conference Final, and so that brings on some pressure in and of itself. I mean, the Canucks know that they can still absorb a loss and have a chance to advance here. The Oilers aren't in that position, but if you're the Vancouver Canucks, you want to eliminate the Edmonton Oilers. You've got them on the ropes now. Can they deliver that knockout punch on Saturday night?
We'll all be watching. And, of course, we'll all be listening to Rink Wide Vancouver as well on the post-game side of things. Jeff, marvelous stuff here today. Enjoy the game Saturday. We'll catch up Monday.
Yeah, enjoy the long weekend, guys, and we'll see what the weekend brings.
not a long weekend for us, Jeff.
Yeah, we're all
We're
working.
all working.
Fair enough.
Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.